All right, let's settle a classic debate, one you've probably heard before. Which came first, the doctor or the engineer? It sounds simple, right? But in this explainer, we're going to tear that question apart using a little bit of logic and find a way more interesting answer.
So let's get right into it. It's the ultimate showdown. You can almost hear the argument at a dinner party. Who's more fundamental to humanity? The person who fixes our bodies or the person who literally builds the world we live in?
You know the arguments, right? Team Doctor says healing is this ancient, primal instinct. But Team Engineer fires back, hey, someone had to build the tools and shelters first. Healer versus builder. But what if I told you that they're both totally wrong?
Yep, you heard me. The problem isn't in the answer. The problem is baked right into the question itself. It's built on a massive logical error. And to really see it, we have to zoom way, way out. So, to solve a puzzle like this, you have to follow the first rule of logic. Get your timeline straight. Before we can even ask who came first, we have to ask when. And for this question, when starts at the absolute beginning. And that's our starting point. Not with the pyramids, not with the first caveman, no. We're going back 13.8 billion years to the birth of the entire universe. Trust me, looking at it on this scale changes everything.
Just look at this cosmic history. The universe explodes into being. For billions of years, it's just stars and planets forming. Then, about 4 billion years ago, life finally gets going on Earth. And then, all the way over on the right, in this tiny, tiny sliver of time, that's us. Humans finally show up.
And that's the first huge clue. For almost the entire history of everything, there were no people, no societies, and definitely no professions. Asking if a doctor or engineer came first is like asking if a podcaster or an astronaut came first. The answer is neither. The ingredients, humans, weren't even in the kitchen.
And that brings us to the second giant flaw in the whole debate, the words themselves. What do we actually mean by doctor or engineer? Because believe me, definitions are everything here. Let's think about it. To be a doctor, a real doctor, you need a ton of stuff. You need advanced science, organized schools to teach it, and a whole system of knowledge passed down through generations. It's not just about mixing herbs, it's an entire societal infrastructure. And it's the exact same story for an engineer. It's not just banging rocks together. It's applying physics and math, using specialized tools, and working together to solve complex problems. Again, all of that absolutely requires an advanced, organized society. And here's the kicker. At their core, both of these roles are professions. And by definition, a profession needs formal training, qualifications, a civilization to even support it. So, no civilization, no doctors. No civilization, no engineers. They literally had to be born at the same time out of the same social structures.
Okay, so the original question is a bust. It's a paradox with no real answer. But that's not the end of the story. What if we just ask a better question? A smarter, more precise question that actually gets to the truth?
And there it is. That's the question that unlocks the whole puzzle. Forget job titles for a second. Those are modern inventions. Let's talk about the basic ways of thinking, the fundamental strategies for solving problems that are wired into us.
So, to answer our new, better question, we have to go back to those very first humans. What were their biggest problems? Well, it all came down to one thing: survival. And figuring out how they survived tells us everything we need to know.
And when you look at it that way, the answer is, well, it's actually pretty obvious. The evidence is overwhelming. Engineering-style thinking absolutely came first. Our ancestors' first big cognitive leap was a form of primitive engineering.
Think about it. What were the first things we did to survive? We shaped a rock into a tool. We figured out how to make a spear. We learned to control fire. We built a crude shelter. Every single one of those is an act of changing the world around you to solve a problem. That is the soul of engineering.
See, here's the big difference. Engineering thinking is active. It's immediate. It asks, how do I build something or change my environment to survive right now? Medical thinking, on the other hand, is more observational. It asks, if I watch what happens over time, can I learn the cause and effect? One is about taking immediate action. The other is about patient learning.
All right, so let's put all the pieces back together. We can now build a clear, logical pyramid, a step-by-step hierarchy that takes us from the Big Bang all the way to a modern hospital or skyscraper.
It's like an order of operations for existence. You can't skip a step. First,
You need a universe. Then, life has to evolve. Out of that life, humans appear. To survive, they have to develop an engineering mindset to make tools. Those tools allow civilization to finally take root. And only then, once you have a stable civilization, can you get these specialized jobs we call doctor and engineer. Every single step depends on the one before it.
So here's the final scorecard. Did the doctor come first? Nope. Did the engineer come first? Not a chance. The real answer to what came first is the universe. But the answer to the more interesting question, which type of thinking came first, is crystal clear. It was the engineering mindset, the drive to build and shape the world to ensure our survival.
Which leaves us with one last thing to think about. If our most basic, primal problem-solving instinct is to build, to modify, to engineer a solution, what does that say about how we tackle our biggest challenges today? From climate change to AI, it seems that the ghost of that very first toolmaker is still very much with us.